Hello there, this is back to working with the law. This is chapter 7, Law of Obedience. I'm here in Rome at the moment. It's been quite an interesting adventure, and I decided to go on to the next chapter. And funnily enough, parts of the chapter that I just went through again to reiterate before talking about it, I was actually talking about with my mum earlier, which is quite fascinating and funny how that works. However, this is chapter 7, Law of Obedience. Let me see if I can actually pull up. Whoops. I'm not pressing anything, I don't want to. No, you can't even see that, but yeah, chapter 11, not chapter 7, sorry. Chapter 11, Law of Obedience. I don't know why I've written chapter 7. Yeah, chapter 11, Law of Obedience. And the way it begins is talking about, it's a Bible verse. I can't actually remember exactly what one, maybe I can pull it up. Jeremiah 7:23, and it just took a part out of it where it says, "Obey my voice, and I will be your God, and you shall be my people." It's pretty much just talking about the obedience to the laws, and obviously that comes with understanding the laws and then using them to sort of, I guess, the best of your ability of how you feel as though they should be used, or how they, not how they should be used, but how they are used to get the things that you sort of want, the goodness out of them. It says, build in wisdom or obedience according to understanding. It's also said that man is created sort of a partial illusion of God, which is why a lot of people go sort of wrong with it, because they are actually following the sort of laws of man rather than the law of God. Says the word obey is to comply to order and instruction. Obedience is the governor of all movement. And then it made an example of a machine, pretty much saying that if that machine doesn't obey the laws of momentum or gravity, then it will be sort of destroyed, or it won't work, dismantled, etc. So obviously that's not what you want. You want to be able to follow the laws that are around you to get the result that you're looking to get. And then gives more examples talking about intellectual giants who fail to obey the laws of learning will become as an idiot. A student failing to comply with the law of God will reverse good and create evil. It says that we are dependent on obedience for our success or failure in this life. Our society, cities, state, nation are supported by it. Our property and lives are dependent on it, sort of obedience and laws and things like that. And that goes as far, obviously, as the laws of nature, which it also goes on to talk about. It says children are taught from young to sort of be obedient, unselfish, and sort of allowing them to work with that law as they go further into the future, and sort of the parents will be proud if they are sort of that way. And then it goes on to talk about those that are maybe allowed to grow up disobedient, etc., like disobedient, disrespectful, selfish. You'll see where they may fail in certain aspects of their life, and maybe all of the sort of aspects of their life. Talks about obeying the law of commerce and you will succeed. So again, there's laws of nature, laws of commerce, laws of maths, laws of physics, etc. Just obeying those to succeed. Failure and losses come from disobedience and trying to sort of expand laws through schemes, lack of cooperative agency, and inflated value and things like that. So I was just talking about sort of being disobedient to sort of the law of commerce in itself and how things operate and run, and trying to sort of work outside of that for your own selfish and personal gain. And the thing is, it may work for some time. However, I think a lot of people sort of realise and see that, again, it only works for some time before it just comes crumbling down, which again, for some people it may never come crumbling down, because for them it may not affect them in that way, or the way that it sort of maybe affects them, they don't see it as like a negative, and I guess that's a fight as well. And then it says the law of thought and its creator God, saying and talking about how the law and your thoughts are from God. So like that sort of feeling you have within comes from God. It says nature has no troubles she can't overcome, no problem she can't solve, no burden she can't bear, no task she cannot perform. All operations are governed by harmony and order. If you want to farm, you must obey the laws, and in doing so, you'll have the greatest harvest. And then to reap the full harvest, you'll get that through mastery of understanding the laws of nature. And it gave an example of like a plant trying to grow in the winter, and what happens is nature will just sort of freeze it over and stop it from growing, and then it will also create a blanket for the seeds in the ground that sort of are obeying sort of nature's law, and not growing when they're not supposed to. And then it goes on to sort of connect that to the seeds that you plant in your mind, and talking about how the seeds you sow will be the seeds that you will reap. And in saying that, it's basically talking about all the seeds that you plant in your mind, positive or negative, those are the things that you will reap. Talks about this a lot because, again, this is sort of the I'd say the basic sort of understanding of it. If you plant a turnip, you won't grow a pumpkin, and the same goes in your mind. If you're planting seeds of doubt, negativity, and fear and bad things going on, then that is the seed that will grow, that you will see out with. So what you sort of think and believe and like validate within is what you then eventually will see without, and then that sort of reinforces your belief that those negative things are like maybe like your intuition or things that you that's just the way things are because you thought of it and maybe you didn't realize you thought of it, and then it's happened, or you thought of it and you realize you thought of it and you're like, oh, that's happened, I knew that would happen. And that's sort of just creating this sort of, I'd say, a toxic sort of loop of things happening. Because again, what you sort of see and believe within tends to come around you and show you within your like perception of reality. It comes to your reality in this sort of realm of the world as a reality that you've planted previously. I'm hoping that didn't go a bit round in circles, etc. And then, because it goes on to talk about, think of diseases and things like that. Well, sorry, think of disease and lack. So thinking of diseases and lack, then you will create that for yourself. Obeying, and then it made another example of obeying the illusion of the bogeyman or the boogeyman or whatever you want to call him. It was pretty much a child who had obeyed in the law of what other children were telling him at school, that if he doesn't give them his toys, that they will send the boogeyman to them. They will send the boogeyman to them and to him in the room, and pretty much what happened was he couldn't sleep at night, and the mum realised that. And when the mum realised that, the mum was like explaining to him that it's not actually real and the boogeyman isn't coming. They were just doing that in order to get them toys from him. And then it says, we either serve principle or things, and all we think and do, wealth and health. But it says, we either serve the principles or we serve the things. So if you're like tied to these illusions and these things and material things and all that, you will serve that essentially, and that won't bring you anything but the principles and understanding of those will. And wealth and health, made a story about someone who was chasing wealth their entire life, and in that lost their health, and then used their wealth to try and chase health, and then in the end just died with nothing, essentially. And then it was talking about how everything in this reality is just loaned to you because you are born naked and you will die naked. Like everything's going to be stripped of you. And this is something I was thinking about, was yes, you come here with nothing and you leave with nothing, and realistically it makes you realise that things in this realm or world or whatever don't actually matter. They're not real. Like all these burdens you have and things, if they just disappear like that when you die, it's like, did they actually exist in the first place? Were they really like real if you think about it? No. Like if even the money and things that you have, like that's going to go elsewhere. Like it is just loaned to you. You just have it for the time you're here, and then after that it's gone. It goes on to someone else. You don't get to keep it or take it with you, and that's something people say all the time, but I don't think people really think about it and create that ease within themselves that yes, even if they're going through something that they don't want to be going through at this moment in time, it doesn't actually matter. It's not actually real. Like it's just happening, so to speak, and it's fine. Like you can just know that too will pass. Like it's just you're in that experience for that time being. Like, that is also being loaned to you. That's it. Nothing more and nothing less. It says, your understanding and thoughts are the way you will will see and experience your life. Obeying the law of fear over the law of God will create many more burdens. Be obedient to the law. Forget the past. Trust the law. Live in the present, and let the future take care of itself. Knowing that you're obviously working and walking in that law that you should be operating within. And again, that's not to say that it's going to constrain you, because it's not. It's like infinite. So like, yeah, like there's no sort of constraints within it. And then goes on to talk about, God doesn't need you to follow blindly. Like, an invisible intelligence is everywhere. Even your mind and body is controlled by an invisible entity or intelligence. It goes on to say that if you want quick returns, instant healing, like that's what people tend to want. But at the same time, when they want that instant healing from the disease and they want those quick returns, they don't realize that it took them a long time to even get there. And most of the time they're not ready to drop the habits that brought them there, but they still want some sort of quick fix, even though it was a long list of bad habits that led them to that. It then finishes off by talking about Job 36:11. It says, this has only been 11 minutes, it says, if they obey and serve him, they will spend the rest of their days in prosperity and their years in contentment. And I'll be honest, like, I think a lot of times there's lots of like religious debates and things like that, and I'll be honest, I think a lot of these debates and things, again, I think people say this all the time though, it's like everybody sort of believes in the same thing, and the only way that I'd say people can really like show that what they believe in is true, which I think everything everybody sort of believes in is true for them, or it's true to an extent, those things, like, you can only really solidify them if you're able to walk within that law and create the reality that you sort of want, or create or bring about the things that you want to bring about, rather than having things be brought about to you for just no reason somehow, if that even makes sense. Like those who believe in religion and follow religion and use the religion to be able to be in sort of realities they want to be in, I think there's no issue with that. And then there's also those, and again, I don't hold anything against them, that live in realities they don't want to live in, and they are like super almost fanatic about their sort of religion and it being correct, and having these strong views and opinions and things, which again is fine. However, if you're not actually even in a position or living a life that you want to live, then is it really worth it? I wouldn't say so. You can have your convictions, you can have your beliefs and your intuitions and your truths and this whole realistic thing, but again, if it's creating something that you don't even want, what's the point? And to finish that up, I'm going to actually turn the camera around to give you a little view. And this might be the thumbnail. Where's the... take the brightness down a little bit. And yes, that is the Colosseum. I think before I would have dreamt of being in a place like this. And now I'm here. Yeah, it's beautiful. And so is this chandelier. Let me turn the camera again. But yeah, listen, I'm sure this helped in some way, shape, form or fashion. And I hope videos like these continue to help. Definitely I would recommend getting this book, reading it for yourself, gaining and gathering your own perspective of it, and going from there, to be honest, because it is a very beautiful perspective and book. I'm talking about that, let me actually finish the video differently. Turn it around again, get that view. Let's open the window here. Yeah. It's raining just now, although the view is still very nice, even within the rain. Let me snipe a thumbnail here. There we go. Law of obedience. The law of obedience. Yep, maybe that'll work. Maybe it won't. But yeah, that has been chapter 11, Law of Obedience. And thank you for listening.